being a small child, Frances, you always wanted to do art. It was like it was something compulsive in you that you had to express yourself with art. And when you look at the pieces, like the pieces behind you now, what do they tell us about you?
Um, well, I guess they tell you that I love interesting compositions. You can sort of see behind if I move that I this series is called From the Perspective of the Angels, and it's taking aerial views of looking down at the world and making an ordinary moment extraordinary. Um, and looking from that sort of viewpoint, it kind of it makes everything like a pattern. It flattens the space. And I'm very interested in sort of compositions, and I guess it goes back to my days at the BBC and thinking about design. So yes, that tells you about that sort of element. I also love colour. Um, I tend to work with a lot of saturated colours, and so that again is something you can see. There's bright yellow stripes in that one
Hmm.
behind as well. And I also love narrative and stories, and I'm really enjoying the narrative of painting females in bed. um, it I think it's that feeling of comfort and security, and I also love the narrative of objects which props you can use when in bed, like a book, which can transform you into another place and into another world. It's another viewing within the painting. Or I might have a cat on the bed, which is looking at you, breaking the fourth wall, looking beyond at the viewer. So I love sort of playing with little stories within the work.
And you told me that some of the artists whose work you admire, one of which is Zoe Frank, the British artist
Yes.
who's been on the show. But there were others you said earlier that to me before we started recording the podcast that there were so many other artists that you didn't list, and probably a long list. So when you think about all the women in this space now and that are getting more exposure, we hope, what other names can you bring to us?
What women artists?
Yes.
Female artists. A big one for me is Jenny Saville. I think she was the first woman painter I actually knew who was a painter when I was at art college. She paints these big, well, at the time she painted these obese women with lots of gestural paint, and they're just amazing paintings. And she was, so successful, so young. So yeah, I mean, and she's still going and still producing amazing pieces. So yeah, she's one of my favorite artists. Um, and then I also really liked it. I I think it's my art foundation. I got to know Paul Arago, and there was actually a big exhibition at the National Gallery. I think it was no, was it the Tate? I think it was the Tate Britain. Yeah, Tate Britain. I think it was not that long ago. And yeah, again, I mean, her work is has a lot of meaning to me now thinking about it with my own work, because she painted a lot of females. Obviously, they had very full with narrative, and I'm definitely interested in narrative and figures in spaces, and so yeah, I feel like I could look at her a lot more actually.
Do you feel that women are getting the space as artists in galleries today, unlike what they used to, of course, in days
Yeah, it's fun.
past?
It's funny. It's fun. Yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think it's changing massively. Like when you look at the societies in like the Royal Society of oil painters and those kind of societies in London. There's a lot more women. There might even be quite an equal balance. I mean, Actually, one of the artists whose work I love, who's a contemporary artist, she's the deputy president of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters, Hayley Jo Summers, and yeah, she's an amazing painter. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, I feel like I don't feel like with me personally that being a woman has affected my art journey. I don't feel like it's been a hindrance at all.
You haven't found any sexism then when you were starting?
No,
No,
no.
I think that
I
is
mean, like,
changing.
I think at school, I had a female art teacher. So I didn't really, well, there's a female and a male art teacher. And on my degree, again, there were two art teachers, male and female. So I felt like, women in art was very 50-50, I guess, in my journey. And at the BBC as a designer, my boss in Bristol was a female. Actually, at P Media, my first design agency, again, my boss was a female. So I feel like women have been very strong, I guess, in my life with art.
And that's
So I don't
important to
feel
you.
like,
That's important to you, isn't it? Because you often paint women.
yes, I would say I mean, I really believe in equal opportunities, and I guess would get very feel put out if I didn't feel like I was getting the same opportunities as other people. That's why I actually think that I haven't actually. That's why I feel I'm being quite honest to say that I haven't actually felt like I've had any prejudice against me, to be honest, being a female.
What advice would you give to younger people if you did teach? And I don't know, do you teach at all?
I have taught actually in Washington, DC. During lockdown or just after lockdown, I did 3 online courses. One was finding freedom expression in oil painting, and another one on portraiture, and then the last one, figures and interiors. Um, and that was wonderful actually because you kind of mix. I had loads of people who signed up to it, and they were from all over the world, like from Australia and America and Spain. And actually, they were such a wonderful bunch, the first lot who signed up, that most of them signed up for the next ones as well. So it just kind of was a repeat of the same people, which was really lovely. Um, but yeah, that was that was a really good experience actually. But I've forgotten what the question was now. What was
Well,
the
I also
question?
wonder what, your message would be to young girls that want to make a career in this, because, as you say, art school doesn't prepare you to be an artist. So what advice would you give to young people graduating to get going in there and get started in a career as an artist?
Well, I mean, people might disagree, but I think it's a lot easier now because you've got the internet.
Hmm.
And because you've got to remember when I did my art degree, the first email I sent was to my husband on my last, well, I met him my last year of my degree. So like I had no access to any sort of materials, like, because now you can watch YouTube videos. You can I mean, like you can just Google if you want to do an art course, you can just Google and find you can find an artist who will teach you about anything basically. I think there's a lot of resources now, even books and things. I wasn't aware of any books like or anything, to be honest. I didn't watch any videos about how to paint or anything. So I think it's very different now. So I don't know what I'd say, which I think the main thing is just to have confidence in yourself, and believe in yourself. Because I spent most of my time thinking that there's no way I can make a living out of this, and there's no way that I can support myself. But actually, it is possible. It's just hard work and just turning up each day and taking the opportunities when you can. And again, which I again when I was young, I didn't know anything about these open calls and stuff like that. I mean, there's so many open calls now. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's practically an open call for an art competition every week. So I recommend entering art competitions because then people get to know you and you'll get to know. I mean, it's been good for me because you get to know an art community because the more you enter these things, the more names you see and you recognise and you build a community around them. So I would recommend entering some of those, and there's all different types of one, different levels and things like that. So and also I'd recommend your local art community as well, getting in touch with, because there are artists everywhere. I mean, where I live in England, you wouldn't necessarily say it was an art, it's not like Brighton or there isn't that sort of art community in like, some places more known for it, aren't they? Whereas, but even still, there are artists everywhere. And where I am, I go to, well, I do when I'm not so busy. On a Thursday, I'll go and paint portraits from life. And then you get to know other artists. You can then do exhibitions together. We have, like, in this area, and I think most areas have it, we have open studios, which again is a really good way of local people getting to know your work and be able to talk about your work, and you can then use that experience. I mean, it's all helps, doesn't it? Basically just saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of opportunities out there if you look.
Yeah. Exposure, exposure, exposure. Now, finally, and I know you listen to BBC's Desert Island Discs, and so if you had to save one painting from your house, from the waves, as you would if you were on a desert island, which painting would that be?
Oh gosh, that's so hard.
Is it?
um, well, I love the two portraits I've done of my children, but I can't choose one because then I'd choose one child over
Yeah,
the other. So I can't do that.
it's hard.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'd probably choose the painting I did in lockdown of my porch, which is probably, it was the first painting which sort of led to this series which I'm painting at the moment, Looking from Above. And I did a painting looking down on our porch in lockdown and used it to record the idea of time, the sense of time, because it's our only connection with the world at the time was when the Amazon delivery guy brought us a parcel, and so I'd paint that, and then that would go, and then some milk bottles would arrive, and I'd paint that, and so it's got like sort of and there's layers of different objects appearing and disappearing on that porch. And even my two cats, which are both dead now, they both appear on it. And my children, all you can see is their feet and their socks when they went off to school eventually. So
Uh-huh.
I've got them in the top, and they no longer go to that school because it's their primary school. So yeah, so I guess it's got a lot of memories and history to it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would represent a lot of things. So, well, in the
Mm.
spirit of Desert Island Disc, then, what would be the music that you would save from the waves?
Oh gosh. I knew you're so yeah into the music aspect, but I don't know. I absolutely no idea. It, yeah, I don't really have like I have. I guess with design discs, people choose tracks, don't they, which
Yeah,
remind them of a certain period of their life.
exactly. Is there
And
one track that, you think back on your life and that, oh yeah, I remember playing that like in college or
I don't know why this song's coming to my head, but I do. I suppose it makes an interesting story. But I think of I just this song by Tracy Chapman, "Fast Car," and
oh yes.
I think that just comes in my head because when I was little, my dad's car got stolen, and and basically it got dumped somewhere. Obviously,
Uh-huh.
police chased it. It got dumped somewhere, but they stole that cassette tape
Oh no.
out of the player.
Oh, that's
so so
funny.
they stole the car. Well, and so we lost that cassette.
Oh,
Yeah, it kind of I don't know, but it's a great track as well. So
and it is a great track as well. So are you a Tracy Chapman fan then? Because there's what is the Revolution? Yeah, I mean, once you start on the Tracy Chapman, you got to play talking about a revolution and
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, yeah, I mean, I love lots of music, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she was my favorite. I don't know who my favorite artist is, but I could quite easily listen to her.
Do you have to get into a mindset when you go into the studio of, to transition from the house, whatever else has been going on in your life? How is that transition for you?
Yeah, so I've got a dog, so every morning I go and walk the dog, so that's quite a good start to the day. I mean, yes, I take him for an hour's walk, so I get my exercise, I get my fresh air, I've blown those cobwebs away,
Right.
thought about what I'm doing for the day, and so then I'll go ahead into the studio. So I think that's a good start. And then I usually choose a good Audible book,
Right.
and
Or a
and
podcast.
or a podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, um, yeah. So I don't I, I rarely listen to music. The only time I listen to music is if I've finished a book or podcast. I felt like I've listened to enough, and I just need
Right.
to. I can't just suddenly start another podcast or start another book, and then I might put some music on.
Transition. Transition. Well, it's late in the day as we're recording. And so tomorrow morning, you wouldn't do anything tonight. You said sometimes you paint into the evening, but it would be tomorrow that you would
No,
start over.
I'm gonna go back to painting now.
Are you?
Yeah, I've got I've got too much to
Got too much
do.
to do.
I know. Yeah, I'm going to be working. I'll work till about, I don't know, 10:30.
So you're an
Uh,
you're an owl rather than a lark, are you?
no, I think I'm just work all hours. I literally I seem to wake up quite early, well, 7 o'clock say, and yeah, I want to be at the studio as soon as possible. And I'm just at the moment, I'm just, because I've got this solo show coming up, I'm just feel intense pressure
Yeah. All
to
right. Well,
get
we
all
better
this
let you
work
go
done.
then. Yeah, we don't want to add to the pressure and the time that you have in the
No, so
studio tonight. And the
no,
very best of luck with that exhibition, Francis. And yeah, thanks again for being a guest on the podcast. Of course, you can hear that on any podcast player. And don't forget to subscribe here and download from your podcast app as well. So lots of ways to listen to the Art Podcast. And I'm hoping that you will spread the word for us, Francis, because I know that you're now listening to the show and learning about a lot of other women that you may not have heard about.
yeah, definitely. I've listened to lots actually. I've just realised that I have I've listened to a lot of the same books as other people who are on your podcast.
Oh,
I
have
didn't
you?
know anyone. I didn't know anyone who'd listened to Kristin Hanna's books before, and
Oh,
realised that
yes, women.
yeah, I must have listened to all of her books, and then when I was listening to your
Oh,
podcast, I was like, "Gosh, she's listened to her, and she's listened to her," and
yeah,
thinking, yeah, there's obviously a connection of the type of things that we're into listening to.
definitely. Well, before you go, now that you've mentioned books, can you give us a couple of authors or titles that we can recommend for people?
Well, obviously, I love the Kristin Hanna books.
Yeah.
I love listening to historical fiction. Like I love the Elena Ferrante, who wrote the Neapolitan novels. They're quite old now, but oh my God, they're just amazing. And yeah, got really hooked into those. Um, and I love the book, All the Lights We Cannot See.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I like a lot of sort of historical fiction, but I also like listening to a lot of thrillers, because the thing is, I love all types of books, but when I'm painting, I can't have something where I have to think too much. And if I'm starting, I suddenly realize I'm not listening to the book anymore. So they have to be page turners.
Right.
So like a thriller, like I like Lisa Jewell, because yeah, they're just real page turners. You just want to know what's happening, and they're brilliant as well because then I can't go and get distracted and think, because if I'm really into the story, I'm also into painting. I don't want to suddenly get up and do something else because I want to know what happened. So it
Right.
helps drive me forward. Yeah, I if you like a thriller, I recommend Lisa Joel. But I basically just listen to a lot on Audible, and I tend to look at the ratings and reviews from other people,
Hmm.
and they tend to be pretty accurate. Really, I seem to, if they've got a big rating, then usually I like them.
Okay. All right. Big. Well, not a reader, you're a listener then, because you probably get through more books when you're painting with through audiobooks than you do reading them, the hard copy.
Yeah, I mean, I did do English literature for A levels, so I do really like reading, but I just don't have the time. And when I get to bed, I'm so tired that I just pass out. But I do on holiday, I always tend to take a hard, a physical book with me.
Hmm.
And I really, like if we stay at a hotel, say I won't watch TV, I really enjoy just, whether we're going on a train journey or whatever, actually physically reading. So,
Yeah. Chucking into a good book. Frances, thank you
mm.
so much for spending time with us. It's been great. Enjoy your reading or listening and a lot more painting.
Thank you very much. It's been great fun.
Thanks. Thank you so much.